Fernando Alonso is one of Formula One's most respected drivers in the modern era. With 2 World Championships to his name, it's hard to actually underestimate that statement. Now, obviously, as we all know, in recent years, if you do follow Formula 1 quite closely, you'll know that Fernando Alonso hasn't been at his best of form because of, obviously, the car that he's been in. Now, he did rejoin McLaren back in 2015 after a brief stint back in 2007. Now, obviously, the newly revamped partnership with McLaren and Honda after the last time, dominated Formula 1 back in the 80s and 90s as well. And obviously, Honda being associated with Williams as well. So obviously, having a very dominant spell with them. Coming back into McLaren, it was written in the stars for it to be a success, and it was anything but. So obviously, there's always been some sort of future about Alonso is going to stay in Formula 1, and somehow he's managed to see them 3 dreaded years out. Now we do know next season that McLaren is going to Renault, so obviously things hopefully is going to be quite good. Now you're probably thinking, well, hang on, John, you've already debated this, so why are you bringing this up again all of a sudden? Well, it's emerged this week that Fernando Alonso could potentially drive in the Le Mans 24 hours. Now we are no stranger that Alonso wants to have the Triple Crown, which is the Monaco Grand Prix win, the IndyCar win, and the Le Mans 24-hour win. Now, we do know Alonso has the Monaco Grand Prix win. He's won that twice. He did have a go in the Indy this season, rather, back in May, back in the summer, and obviously a certain Honda engine let him down. So kind of awkward in a way. However, obviously he said that hopefully one day he will be back. But since he was announced that he was going to drive at McLaren next season, he said that he's not going to compete in the Indy because he's very, very much committed to be with the McLaren Renault situation. I think he only went to IndyCar because his relationship with McLaren Honda wasn't really as good. So I think if that had been if he was with Ferrari, he wouldn't have done it. Or if McLaren Honda had been better, I don't think he would have done it. So obviously Alonso has this amazing goal in his motorsport career to be able to win the Triple Crown, which has only been done once by Graham Hill. So obviously Alonso has his goals firmly set. It's like I said, he didn't get Le Mans. He didn't get IndyCar. Maybe one day he'll go back to that, but now he's going to Le Mans. So who's he going with? Well, the only car manufacturer of the car-based team in WEC right now, which is Toyota. Now we do know that Audi and Porsche, big car manufacturers, have pulled out of the WEC or LMP1, whatever you want to call it, in recent years. So obviously Toyota is one of the big protagonists left in there. Now Alonso could potentially be driving them. He is driving a spec Toyota car the day after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, which is the last round of the 2017 season. So straight away, Alonso is right, he's fully committed to be able to try and get into a car, into a WEC car, obviously getting used to the surroundings, hopefully getting used to the car, maybe eventually go on to win the 24-hour race. Now, weeks and weeks before, Alonso did announce, just shortly after he announced that he was going to drive with McLaren, that he was going to compete in the Daytona 24 hours in America, alongside newly promoted McLaren reserve driver Lando Norris. It's a mouthful, I know. So obviously 17-year-old again versus a 36-year-old in the same team, going over to a Daytona to drive to 24-hour, a very, very big event in the motorsport of America. So obviously he's getting experience there by going through the Daytona, and that kind of raised a few eyebrows of okay, he's going over to the Daytona, but what about Le Mans? So obviously, I'm pleased to be hearing this, that Alonso is eventually stepping into the world of WEC. Now, hopefully, you might get a word of advice from Brendan Hartley, who has just been crowned, been crowned a WEC champion with his team Porsche, who is pulling out, unfortunately. Obviously, and he is a Le Mans winner himself, and also Nick Hulkenberg, who also won the competition with Porsche back in 2015. So you've got 2 Le Mans winners on the grid right now, which is absolutely incredible to see. Maybe one day, if Alonso does manage to win it, there could be 3, which would be, I think, be pretty impressive. To be quite honest with you. But obviously, I want to know your guys' opinions first. Is this good for Alonso? Do you think he should be competing in other categories of motorsport during his Formula 1 career, or do you think he should have really waited and maybe just concentrate on the job in hand? Now, obviously, as I did say before, the IndyCar project is obviously scrapped. He doesn't want to do that this season. However, he did say that one day he will return to have another go. Because obviously, as I said, his ambition is to win the Triple Crown. So Obviously, he's putting a hole on that, but obviously he's going over to France on Le Mans. Now there is no official confirmation of the date of Le Mans because as the 2018 calendar for the WEC hasn't been announced, and the F1 calendar hasn't officially been announced. There's been leaked, and obviously you've had your provisional calendars. However, there is no official confirmation. So Alonso could yet miss another Grand Prix, which also could mean that Lando Norris could become Formula One's youngest ever driver, or one of Formula One's youngest ever drivers, which would be pretty impressive to say the least. Now, I think Alonso is one of the best F1 drivers out there. For him doing this, will be really, really good. However, I don't want this to distract him from the McLaren Renault project. Now, McLaren are on a massive slide right now. Obviously, as we all know, they're not where they wanted to be. 2017 has been a very, very horrible year. It's just about coming together towards the end of this season. However, it is too little, too late. Honda is going. They should have went ages ago, in my opinion. They should have went in season 1 of the newly revamped season. However, they are going to run the next season, which isn't looking quite good if you've seen all the reliabilities. I think there's like 5 cars that retired in the US or Mexico, I believe. So it's not really quite good, even though one of them did win the race. So there is signs there, but obviously it isn't looking good. But I don't want this to distract. As I said, I don't want this to distract Alonso's goal with McLaren to be able to win a game, because obviously, if you guys do know, I follow McLaren quite closely. I follow all the teams as a whole, but if I had to choose one team, it would be McLaren. As you probably see, I've got the merchandise. I followed them since probably Lewis Hamilton was there. So they've been a big part of my upbringing in Formula One. So obviously, I want them to be back. I want them to I'm very much more involved in Formula One than I ever have been. Same with Lal as well, and we both want to see McLaren back at the top. So obviously, I want Alonso to be fully committed and to be saying, right, I am taking this seriously. And I did think that when he said that he wasn't going back to IndyCar. However, now he's going to Le Mans, even though it's like, right, okay, he's going for the drop of crown. But I think this should be after his Formula One career, because this could literally distract him from this from this project. Now obviously Lando Norris, however, the newly McLaren third driver, replacing Jenson Button. So obviously we are saying goodbye to Jenson Button altogether now. Lando Norris competing alongside Alonso, teammates with Alonso in the Daytona 24 hours. So I think this also as well is good. It's good for chemistry reasons, because obviously these guys are going to be working together. I don't think that they'll be teammates in the future. I think Alonso will be gone. I think Norris will replace Alonso alongside Van Dorn in the future. I think that'll be a future partnership. Maybe Alonso can stay on as an ambassador, like what Jenson Button is doing. So those two working together, it's great team chemistry on that side of things. So I'm very happy for that. But as I said, I'm a bit unsure as to whether this could distract Alonso from the project. And you're probably thinking, well, hang on, think about it, Jordan. He went over to IndyCar. He did that, but obviously that didn't really distract him. Yes, because he had a bad car, but also as well he was working with McLaren on that thing, because Andretti obviously were powered by Honda. Honda obviously powered McLaren. Obviously Zach Brown has does know a lot of people in IndyCar. So obviously they went over. They went as McLaren, Honda, Andretti. Zach Brown helped them. It was kind of like it was in a way McLaren in itself. It was obviously the livery. It was overalls. It was the sponsors. Zach Brown, Alonso. It was pretty much McLaren in IndyCar. However, Toyota has got nothing to do with McLaren whatsoever. So obviously Alonso's going to be driving there, working alongside those guys. So he's going to be. He's going to have one set on the project with McLaren, the other one on his dream to achieve the Triple Crown. But then also you could argue, well, what if he doesn't get an opportunity like that? Well, like that again. Well, I'm thinking, well, I think he will. This is Fernando Alonso we are talking about. As like I said, one of the best F1 drivers, or one of the best motorsport drivers of all time, or pretty of the modern generation. So obviously, there's no one's going to turn him down without. If I was running an LMP1 team, or if I was running an IndyCar team, or whatever, I would definitely have Alonso on my team. If he wasn't driving, I'll have him in the back room, in the background, just to give the drivers advice, team data and all that, because he's quite knowledgeable about the ins and outs of motor racing. But as like I said, it is a bit of a tricky one to be discussing. So maybe this is a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. As I said before, I want to know your guys' opinions. So obviously that's one topic, kind of covered as well. Just glazing over that. This was announced, newly this week. The other one I want to talk about is Lewis Hamilton. Now, Lewis Hamilton has been in the news this week for all the good in bad reasons. Now, the good thing is, obviously, he's now a 4-time world champion, as I said in the GP preview show, and as I said in the last debate show, episode 77. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. And if you haven't seen the GP preview show as well, go and check that out as well. And Friday the Grid to go with it as well. Very, very close, I must say, guys. So obviously, Lewis Hamilton, like I said, on top of the world right now, obviously Britain reckless left, right and centre. However, he's been in the news this week for a totally different reason, which is obviously this tax dodging accusations, you could say. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it because obviously I don't know too much about it myself, and I don't want to be starting other rumours as well, because I don't want one of you guys to watch and go, oh, he said this, so obviously he must mean it. He knows what he's talking about. I kind of do, but I kind of don't. So obviously Hamilton, apparently he's been missing loads of payments on his tax about his helicopter, flying to other places where he shouldn't have been, and just like, getting different receipts from other companies as well, going, lending the money from himself, that kind of thing as well. So if you do know how all that works, then obviously then you'll know all about it. I seen the article and I was a bit like, oh no, I didn't want this to be involved with Formula 1 because I've never seen this before. I've seen it with footballers, I've seen it with big golfers, I've seen it with tennis stars, rugby players as well who've actually done this. Even TV presenters themselves. I remember Jimmy Carr, if you know him, he was a massive one back in, I think, about 2012. I think it was, obviously, he was all over the news at one stage. So it is a shame to see, and to have something like this to come into a sport that I think is a clean sport. There's no violence in it. There's no aggressiveness. There's nothing like that like you get in other forms of sport. And to have something like this come into Formula 1, it is a bit sad, and I'm a bit like, well, come on, Hamilton, is this really necessary? You know what I mean? Like you're on top of the world right now. You're in a position where guys like me and guys like who are fighting in Formula 1 who want to be like this, but obviously in his position. But I think it's just one of them things where it just came out in the news. Obviously Hamilton isn't going to talk about it at all. He's not that type of person. So I think this may damage Hamilton's reputation in a way. Obviously, I want to know your guys' opinions on that as well. So obviously let us know in the comment section below. It's not really a massive topic, but I thought I'd just bring it up because it's like, excuse me, it's like one of those things where it's like, well, come on, Hamilton, you've got the money to do so, but obviously people do it all the time. It's just he's been exploited by somebody. Someone's went undercover, found out what is going on, and obviously released it to the press to get a bit more money for themselves. So obviously, if that hadn't happened, Hamilton he's probably doing this for years and years and years. Now, I do know that a lot of Formula 1 drivers do live in a place such as Monaco to avoid all that tax thing as well. But obviously, other stuff they've got to pay tax on, they're trying to avoid it by going through other companies in other parts of the world. Try and fill up the system also in a way, you could say. So obviously, going down kind of like a bit of a darker route, you could say. But obviously, what am I to know? But no. And also, I want to mention that as well. Obviously, putting that to one side now. Let's just put that in the back of our minds. Bringing in the good side of things, which is obviously Hamilton entered Mexico, 3-time world champion, and left the 4-time world champion. Coming into Brazil, a newly, his first race as an official 4-time world champion. And I want to ask you guys, right? Hamilton fan or not, do you think he generally is one of the best F1 drivers of all time? It's a big statement that everyone has been saying. In the news headlines and social media, on Facebook, Twitter, or whatever, we've said it before, and I personally believe he is. Now, it's a very complicated subject to be on about because obviously, when you're thinking, when you think of really good drivers, you think of Fangio, you think of Jim Clark, my favourite F1 driver, you think of James Hunt, Niki Lauda, Alain Prost, Ayrton Senna, Mika Hakkinen, Michael Schumacher, Sebastian Vettel, and obviously Lewis Hamilton. You think of a lot of drivers as well, but also you do think of other drivers who haven't been as successful. Like you could say, Sterling Moss is arguably the best F1 driver who hasn't won a world championship. Very, very controversial as well. Then you've got drivers such as Esteban Ocon, Sergio Perez, Nico Hulkenberg, very, very quick drivers who on their day can be really, really good in a very competitive car. However, aren't. So obviously it's on one side of things, what I'm basically trying to say is that it's all about the car. So could Schumacher, I don't know, do what Hamilton's doing in Hamilton's car, and could Hamilton do what Schumacher did in, say, 2002, 2004, the big dominant years of Formula 1? Could Hamilton, with his ability, win every single race of the 1988 season in the MP44 alongside Ayrton Senna? Could he work with Ayrton Senna? I really doubt that. Or maybe alongside Alain Prost, which I doubt that even more highly. So I can imagine that Hamilton and Alain Prost in the same team, that would not go down well whatsoever. So, and then obviously then you could argue, Jenson Button should have more world championships. Massa should be a world champion. Alonso should have more than 2 world championships. He should be a 5-time world championship. I think he's 6. Is he 6 points. He was 6 points away from being a 5-time world champion, which is an unbelievable stat to say the least. You know, he fully deserves more than 2 world championships as well. So, you know what I mean? So obviously you're talking about different generations of motorsport as well, where the formula was different, where the rules were different, where the cars were different. So obviously you can't really say that Hamilton is definitely the best F1 driver of all time. It's all about opinion. It's all about what you think. My opinion, in terms of obviously stats don't lie. He's up there. Obviously, most pole positions of all time, second most wins. Can he catch Michael Schumacher? Of course he can, easily. I think he can, and I think he will. I think he'll get to at least 100 wins. I generally, honestly do believe that. Now, he is 32-year-old, so obviously he has got, let's say, I would say about another 4 seasons left in him at his prime. Obviously, if he stays with Mercedes and keeps up a good car. Now, obviously, there is rumours where he could move on to Ferrari, but we do know how risky a move to Ferrari is these days, because we do know how bad they have been in recent times. So obviously, you know, could that then damage Hamilton's reputation in Formula One? He should have won more world championships with McLaren. Why didn't he? The car let him down. If the car was more reliable, like in 2012. In 2012, McLaren should have been a constructors champion, and Hamilton should have won the championship. You know, the drivers' championship. But he didn't. Why? Bad of a car. So then you could say, well, Hamilton should be a 5-time world champion, a 6-time world champion back in 2007. You know, it's all about luck, and it's all about it's all about that kind of thing. So obviously, that side of things, you could say, well, you can't really say who is the best and who isn't, because Schumacher could have more world championships. He could have more wins. Senna could have more world championships if he did well with McLaren in '92 and '93 when Williams dominated the sport. You know what I mean? You know, if Alain Prost hadn't have messed up at Ferrari, he could have 5 or 6. He lost the championship by half a point in 1984. What a shame, isn't it? So, you know, it's all about, you know, just, you know, what ifs and, you know, what could have been, basically. But, you know, again, just obviously a lot of questions in today's debate show. So obviously, is Hamilton one of the best F1 drivers of all time? Let us know. I want to know your opinion in the comment section below. My opinion is yes. However, I think there is drivers who are better than Hamilton, but they haven't been able to show it. Like for me, Jenson Button and Alonso is better than Lewis Hamilton. I say that because they're more experienced. You know, they've been in Formula One back in the olden days, before this modern technology came in. I would say that they are the last lot of generation, including Felipe Massa, who drove those type of cars. You know, the V10s and the V8s as well. You know, aside of all this modern day hybrid technology that you get these days, obviously you're taking away sort of the ability of the drivers, which we have discussed in previous debate shows. So obviously go and check them out if you haven't seen them already. So obviously, you are taking away the ability of the car. Like, could Fangio drive Hamilton's car? Probably not. Could Hamilton drive Fangio's car? Probably not. So, you know what I mean? It's all about different generations of discussing what could have been. You know, could he do this? Could he do that? But yes, I would agree. Hamilton is definitely one of the best F1 drivers of all time. He's definitely put himself up there as legends, alongside Sebastian Vettel as well. And in 2018, guys, for the first time ever, 2 4-time world champions are going to be on the grid. Very, very exciting to say the least. Anyway, guys, but this is where I'm going to wrap up today's episode. Thank you very much for watching. A short one, I know, but obviously there's only me today, so obviously I don't have anyone else's opinion to discuss, and obviously I don't have anything obviously on Lau's behalf. Anyways, you should be with us for the next F1 debate show, episode 79. Stay tuned for remaining debate shows till the end of the season, guys. So there's only after this. Well, there's now only 2 debate shows left of the Formula 1 season, and then we'll be announcing our plans for the run up to Christmas, and then obviously throughout the winter, and then obviously announcing plans what's going to happen next season, which is actually quite exciting as well. So anyways, guys, if you have liked this video, then please give it a like as well. Dislike, tell us why. Obviously, any feedback is very, very, very important. Subscribe if you're new around here as well. You know, we are very, very happy with our progress as well. Social media, follow us on Twitter at F1_DS16. Like us on Facebook, send us the message, give us a topic to discuss, and if you want us to discuss anything as well, any series you want to say, obviously let us know in the comment section below. But anyways, guys, we've been there for the debate show, and until next time, we'll see you later.